Futures Sage Hill, and I am helping organize these webinars that we have been doing for the last couple months now and going up until March. The goal of these webinars is just to introduce a few and to teach on some business related, small business related topics, such as, well, today is marketing. In the past, we've had some on Instagram, Facebook, and financial statements. We did
That's
have
right.
yeah.
Canva.
Yeah, Canva. So anyway, so we have a whole host of other webinars that we're going to be offering until the end of March, and we're doing them every 2 weeks. And so you're welcome to check us out on Eventbrite and see what else we have going on. So anyways, thanks for joining us today. And I'm going to pass you along to Sherilyn Walters.
Hey, everybody. I am Sherilyn Walters. I'm the business consultant and used to be facilitator, but since we're not out there anymore, I'm not doing a lot of that, for the Indigenous Business Development Services. And I'm in partnership with Sage Hill Community Futures Development Corporation. So we're using, obviously, online tools as much as we can. So people that have questions for me related to the startup or expansion or survival of their business can text me, and then we can set up a time and go from there to continue working on your opportunity. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Glessman, and I'm with the Sage Hill Community Futures Office. We hold the contract for the IBDS program, and we are excited to be offering this Biz Maker series of workshops. And today we're doing marketing. So maybe what we'll try to do is, as people are slowly joining, is we like to just tell us where you're from, what your business idea is, or if you're in business. That way it'll give Jill a bit of an idea of the background and where everybody's coming from. So with that, we will start. The first one I see on my screen is Sandy. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hi, Sandy.
I'm just trying to figure out how to make you big. Oh, there we go.
Okay. If you could just tell us who you are, what your business is, and if you're up and operating, or just a little bit about yourself.
Sandy, I have NickWeb Equine Assisted Learning. I do equine assisted learning with Clydesdales, and I've just started, and I'm trying to get everything up and running while doing a full-time job. So,
thanks for joining us. We'll go to Dwayne next. Did you get your? I know you could.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, perfectly.
Oh,
yes.
Perfect. Okay. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I am from the Waterhead and Lake Cree Nation. I have a project that I've been working on for the past couple of years, and I actually invented a brand new card game, an Indigenous style card game, and I already have my web domain name and .com and .ca. I have a trademark, and I'm looking forward to learning how to market my product.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
The next one on my screen, it says M. Dixon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marie Dixon. I am actually tuning in from New York City. I happened to see this course on Eventbrite, and I am in the process of starting an online store. So I'm always looking for opportunities to network and meet other people. And again, I'm just starting to implement after working in corporate America for many years. I'm deciding to branch out into entrepreneurship full time.
Oh, what are you selling?
Clothing, mainly women's clothing and accessories.
Awesome.
Good to know. Welcome to Canada.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been to Canada many times.
Good.
So the next one on my screen is Aaron. Are you able to hear it? I know we were talking. Are you? There we are.
Hello. I just had to hit the unmute button.
Okay.
So my name's Aaron. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I launched Atlas e-commerce earlier this year. And Atlas e-commerce owns the pre-order and pay app and a host of e-commerce solutions. And essentially the pre-order and pay app is an app mall where small businesses can sell their products to consumers. Consumers can download the app for free on the iOS and Android stores. And then you can just through our online portal list your products with pictures and whatnot, and sell on the pre-order and pay app. We also build custom applications that are e-commerce integrated integrations. So if you feel that your brand warrants its own application, so to speak, we can help you achieve that as well for probably a lot less than you might think. So yeah, and this is gonna sound, that is also initiated another business I'm working on right now called Your Home Foods and that business will be on the pre-order and pay app, selling locally produced food, that being beef, vegetables, and other products. But that's in the future. I'm just working on that right now, and it's one way I'm using actually to try and promote the app itself.
Sounds great. Okay, so the next one on our screen says Lane, and I think that's Elaine, right? Did you want to tell us about yourself? Maybe. Elaine, are you there?
All of my super intelligent thoughts are said when I'm on mute. So there's probably other people like that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll try the next one. It says Diane. There she comes. Hi, Diane.
Oh, Elaine sent something in the
the
chat. Hi, I'm Elaine. My husband and I own Harv's Auto Body and Limited and Towing in Rosthern. We're an SGI Elite accredited collision repair center. We've been in business for over 30 years. Awesome.
Awesome. That's great.
Thanks, Elaine.
Okay. And I'm not sure, Diane, if you were able to join talk. I see you unmuted. If not, and I will try to keep a better close eye on the chat. And then our last one, it says San Antonio. Santiago, sorry. I had my chat box over top of it. Okay, well with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jill, let you introduce yourself, and we will get started.
Great, thanks Jenny. As Jenny mentioned, my name's Jill, and I am a business consultant here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I primarily work with businesses in Saskatchewan, but I have worked with businesses right across Canada. Primarily, I help companies with their marketing, and that's everything from setting up a marketing function in a company, helping companies hire marketers, right up to actually digging in and doing marketing for a company, mostly on a short-term basis, and helping them hire someone to replace me so I can move out and on to my next project. My background is in sales and marketing, and when I was in the corporate world, I started out in sales and went into a marketing role. And then I started working with small businesses, and it was really important step for me because I learned how entrepreneurs wear so many different hats, that marketing is not one that most people really like to wear, or some people wear it intuitively and they don't know even how great they're doing at marketing because it's just something that comes naturally. But I would say that most people are not natural marketers, and so it's part of my work is helping people be good consumers of marketing services. So whether that's somebody who can help you with a website, or somebody who comes in and says they're selling ads in a newspaper or radio station, all of those different suppliers help entrepreneurs with marketing. But it's like going to a restaurant. You can't just go to a restaurant and say, feed me. You have to go in and ask for what you want. And that's really the difficult thing that I find for most entrepreneurs, again, because you're wearing lots of hats, but also because if you don't have a fundamental understanding of marketing, it can be really challenging. So, so lots of people will just open up their wallet to the first person who comes in and says, I can put you online, or I can put you on social media. And oftentimes when I get the call, it's, I've just spent $5,000 on a trade show, or $10,000 on a social media campaign and it's not giving me what I want. So that's what I'm on a mission to educate people on marketing so that you can be good consumers and really get good value for your marketing dollars out there in the marketplace. So I do have a presentation prepared, but I am very excited to know what businesses you're in, because that helps me to customize the content for this presentation. I love marketing and I could talk about it forever. So if you do have a question, please unmute yourself and ask, or put something in the chat so that I can stop, because I would really like to answer questions that you have. And I don't want to go through this too quickly so that you can't sort of let the wheels spin and figure out how this is going to apply to your business. So I'll try to address some of the businesses that I've heard you're representing here, and try and give you some specifics. But also I wanted to let you know that if you want to get in touch with me, Jessica will send you, I've got a handout, one of the exercises that we'll do it towards the end. She's got it, my name is on there. If you find that you're stuck or you had a question that didn't get answered today, please reach out to me and ask me your question. I'm happy to respond. Email's usually best, but absolutely, I'm happy to share what I know and talk with you about your business specifically. So please, this is our introduction to each other, and hopefully you'll contact me if you have more questions. So with that, I will get going on this presentation. Oops. Sorry, gotta share my screen first.
Just so everybody knows, also, we are taping today's session. So, and we do have a site where we put it up so that you will be able to rewatch if you need to, or if there's something you want to know about or whatever. Right.
There we go. Okay. So one of the questions that I get asked indirectly is, what is marketing? Lots of people mistake sales, advertising, marketing as sort of the same thing, and they are and they aren't. Selling, personal selling, advertising, those are ways that we market, but they're not marketing. And I'm going to go through a little bit of a definition that I have, and hopefully it will bring up some questions and give you some information on the way that I see marketing, and it might help you break down the ideas that you need to sort of solidify so that you can explain your marketing to someone else. This is my definition, and there are lots out there. My definition is marketing is a series of communications to a potential customer that encourages them to change their behavior. And there's lots of different elements to this definition. One of them is communications, and I mentioned sales and marketing. To me, or sorry, sales and advertising, to me, those are kinds of communications that we make to potential customers. Making sure that we can reach our customers is really important. Making sure we reach them at a time when they're interested in what we have to sell, and that we're where they're looking. Earlier, someone just mentioned that they were looking to order pizza from a local supplier, and they couldn't find that company online. And especially after COVID lockdowns everywhere in the world, we know the importance of being online. So if you're not communicating where people are looking for you at the time that they're looking, your marketing could be missing the target. Another element to this is the idea of the potential customer. Who are your customers? I've read thousands of business plans, and when I ask someone, who's your target market, and they say, well, everyone, I know that they haven't really thought through that, because everyone can't be your customer. If we have time, I'll tell a story about that, but you'll have to remind me at the end. And then a behavior change. And this is the thing that people often don't realize about marketing, is that we're asking people to do something different, whether that's to come in our store, to go to our website, to buy our products or services. We're asking them to change what they're doing already. And sometimes that's really hard because things like changing banks from one bank to another, that's a hard thing because we have all of our prepayments set up, we have our checks ordered, we're ready to go. And to change a banking provider, that's really difficult. But changing your mind as to which chocolate bar you'd like to buy at a gas station, that's not that hard because it's not a big investment of our time, energy, or money to make that change. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the behavior change because I think that's a really important part of marketing. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, carry on. So looking at the behavior change, I have a slide that I'm going to show you with a little process in it, and I want to go through it step by step because I really think it's important for us to understand how people make a decision in their mind to buy a product or service. The challenge is it's kind of like a first date. You can't ask somebody to marry you on the first date, or you can, but it will probably be unsuccessful and you may not get a second date. When we're thinking about buying something, we go through a process in our minds and we can't force someone to skip the step. So we can't tell them who we are and then ask them to buy from us right away. It's just, people have to get to know us. And especially for high investment purchases, like buying spending money on an app for your business, like who is that?
Pre-order and pay.
Dwayne.
Aaron.
Or Aaron, sorry. Yes. That's a big investment when you're asking somebody to buy a house or something emotionally charged, like getting them to come to your daycare or something where it's a really involved purchase. Those are things that it's important for us to consider, that people go through a process, and it's not, we go through steps and we don't skip steps. So as we're marketing to someone and asking them to change their behavior, we have to sort of help them work through those steps. And this is the process that I've come up with, that I use over and over again. And you might think that this comes intuitively, but I pull this out all the time. It's on my wall so that I can refer to it, because it's fun to get to the, wow, we can solve this problem for someone, and we'll just tell them who we are and the money will start rolling in. And it doesn't happen that way. We go through this process every time we buy something. And I like to ask people to think about the last time that you bought something, whether it was small or large, whether it took a long time or a very short time, and think about how you went through these steps yourself as a consumer. The first part is the need identification. First of all, we have to figure out that we need something. And sometimes we know we need it. So somebody, it's 5 o'clock, my kids are hungry, I need something, somewhere to order supper from. That's an easy one. You know you need it. But there are other things that you may not know you need. Like 15 years ago, we didn't all know that we needed, oh, somebody's not on mute there. If you could put your microphones on mute, that would be helpful. So sometimes we don't know we need something. We don't know we need, I was going to say 15 years ago, we all didn't know that we needed a smartphone, but now we do. We all need a smartphone. We didn't know that we needed tap to purchase, and now we all have tap to purchase cards. Lots of times we don't know we need things, and especially if you've got something new to the marketplace, like Sandy with the Clydesdales and the therapy. If it's something new, people may not know that they need it. And so the message that you send out to convince somebody to buy from you is very different at that stage than it would be if they already know you and maybe they've already bought something from you. So do people know that they need you? At this stage, a lot of what we're doing is for marketing is education. We're telling people what this is, the product or service, how it can benefit them. So the marketing is very different. Next, we move into developing criteria. And this is really important when people are comparing something. So if you're offering a product or service where there's competition, you know that people are putting that checklist together in their head. What's really important to us and why is that thing important to us? If it's budget, what are we willing to spend? If it's, do we need something right now or do we need something in 6 months? People are putting together their criteria. Then they start looking for the options that are out there. So I know I need something for supper. I know my kids need to eat it, so it can't be spicy or have onions in it. Anybody with kids will know what I mean. Maybe you need it delivered, or maybe you can go pick it up. I don't know what those criteria are, but then eventually we start looking for options that will fit our criteria, and we make those comparisons. Again, this is really important when you're in a competitive marketplace to make sure that people are comparing apples to apples. So things like high quality, customized service, those are things that really add a lot of value, and they may not be important for everyone. I remember going in to look for a TV, and my husband went one direction and I went another direction, and my husband was talking to the salesperson forever about LED versus LCD and how many pixels and all this stuff. And I just wanted to know, was the remote really simple and only had a couple of buttons on it? That's the TV that I wanted. So people have different criteria when they're making a purchase, and it could be the same thing, but different purchase or different criteria. Excuse me. Then we actually make the decision and make a purchase. And this is an important part, especially if you're looking at things that are very involved. Like I said, buying a house is very different from buying a soft drink when you're on a road trip at a gas station. You put a lot more thought and energy into the purchase of a house. You need your mortgage, you need your inspection, you need lots of things. So I think that there's more to that purchase than say just, oh, I looked at the chocolate bars on the rack. This one is one that I recognize. I'll take that one. And then there's the use, and I've made this diagram a circle because I think that when somebody uses your products or services, that could lead them to know, hey, I don't need just this one thing. Maybe I need 6, or maybe I need to give this to all my friends, or maybe I bought it for myself, but I need it for my business. All of my coworkers need this thing. So the use of a product or service can lead to something else that they need from you. So this is a circle, and if you think about this being a circle, there's never really an end to that relationship that you have with a customer. This is something that, especially for businesses that have traditionally relied on what we call word of mouth. That's a bad term in my books, but we can talk about that another time. I think that when people start to use your product or service, that's when we have that connection with them. We know they've thought enough of us to spend their hard-earned dollars with us. Now what can we do to help them to come back again, or to buy another time, or to buy a bigger quantity next time? That use period, for some businesses, it can be a long time. I work in agriculture, and a combine can last 10 or 15 years. So that use period is a long time, but that's also a long time for you to lose connection and for a competitor to gain a connection with your customer. So you don't want to lose that. You want to keep in contact with them and really understand how they're using your product. In innovative enterprises, sometimes they connect with people using their products or services so that they can understand how they can make it better, or how they can create a new product based on maybe problems that the people have, the current customers have, or maybe new uses for the product that they hadn't thought of before. This is a big one. Any questions on this? No?
Just to
Okay.
comment on
Oh,
it,
yeah.
actually, Jill,
Please.
it's a really good logical process as I watch you go through it, and I was thinking about, one of the things that we just did a need identification, and so simple. It was the QB. If you guys are used to that or familiar with it, they sell it on TV, and it's that pedal thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so the need was to make our seniors more active, and so they can't go outside, and winter's coming. And so we took a look, and one of the residents happened to have one. And so we had everybody try it, and they loved it. So we said, this is a way that we can do it. Criteria, of course, it had to be usable for all kinds of mobility issues. The only thing that we compared it to were prices to see where we could get the cheapest. Then the decision was made, and we bought 2 of them, and we now have our own cycling or spin class with our seniors. So it's and we actually, if I now that you say it and I see it, this is exactly the process we went through.
Yeah, I think the more we become aware of this in the purchases that we make in our businesses or as consumers, the more you'll be able to understand it for selling your products and services to your customers. Interesting you say that, Sherilyn, looking for options. I think we always forget that one of the options is the status quo. And we compare what would our world be like if we bought this product or service versus if we didn't. And like I mentioned, the bank, that's an easy one, but even for somebody, I'm trying to think of some of the businesses, like the therapy, you might compare this, maybe there's not an equine therapy business in your area, but people are comparing it to what other options are there to provide therapy to my relative who has special needs. But then they're also comparing it to what if I do and what if I don't? What if I do spend the money? I'll be out the money, but maybe that's a good investment for the physical and mental well-being of my loved one versus having them at home. And you mentioned, Sherilyn, about the activity for seniors. They're either going to be active or they're not. And that status quo is always kind of a competitor out there that we really have to be aware of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. In fact, that was my next topic was with that need. Like I said, when we were talking about need identification, sometimes we find that there's not a need. People don't see that they need something right away. And I find this with startup businesses. Sometimes they fill a need in the marketplace, but then people maybe have come to that coffee shop a few times, and maybe it's sort of their habit, maybe on Saturday mornings or twice a week they come to the coffee shop. Once that becomes familiar, maybe people drop off and they don't come, or winter comes and then people aren't coming back again. We need to then start reaching out and showing people that this is something that they need to do all the time, or something that they need to buy more frequently. Or maybe we need to reach out beyond our circle of family and friends and people maybe locally and look for markets outside of our local area. And that's when we get into developing a need, because people don't always know that they need what you have to sell. One of the things that I look for is their need for change. And in some businesses, especially when you're selling to other businesses, sometimes there's a need for, the risk of the status quo is too high. So in Sherilyn's example, the risk of keeping these seniors inactive all winter was higher than spending the money. So there was a need out there. And if I was the company selling some equipment or apparatus to help seniors become active, I would definitely look at this time period as a big selling season, because you want to keep people busy. The risk of the status quo going into the winter is too high. We need people to be physically active because we want them to be mentally healthy as well. So sometimes we have to create that need, that risk, or make people aware of the risk of the status quo. So sometimes our marketing messages have to be, what happens if we don't do this? What happens if you don't hire an accountant to do your books or your tax forms? What happens if you don't have games at the ready for your family if there's a lockdown again? What happens if I'm trying to look at the list of businesses? What happens to businesses if you don't have an online presence? If I'm a web designer, I'm going crazy telling customers, if you don't have something to prepare you for the next lockdown, your business could fall short. So maybe this is the time to invest in a website. So what's the risk of the status quo? And I think that's something that lots of businesses need to communicate to people, and they don't necessarily want to go there. And one example that I'm thinking of is I worked with some lawyers one time, and God bless them, they were a wonderful group of people, but it's very difficult it's a fine line for a lawyer who does wills and estates to not be an ambulance chaser in their messaging. So it's important to say to people, you know what, if you care about the people who will be left behind when you die, it's important to have a plan for your estate before you die, and be able to communicate that with the people that you love before you become incapacitated in some way. And the language that you use for that can be very harsh and can turn people off because they might think you're an ambulance chaser. Or it can be something that says, hey, if you care about these people, you'll help inform them of what they have to do before they're grieving and dealing with problems with your estate. So that's something to consider. The other thing that I think when we're talking about needs is, how soon does this have to happen? Because in Saskatchewan, we're oriented to agriculture and the seasons. Winter comes every year. It's not like Game of Thrones where winter comes only every 10 generations. We know that winter is coming very quickly. We were just talking about the leaves changing on the trees. We know it's coming. What does that mean for us? It means we have to get our eaves troughs cleaned out. It means we have to get our insulation in our houses done. It means that we have to have a shovel. The other morning, my kid came running into the house and said, I need an ice scraper for the windows. And of course, nobody knew where they were because it's September. But those things need to happen. And so if you're dealing with something that has relevance to the seasons, that can be something to consider, is how urgently do people need what you have? Selling snow shovels in April, not a big market for that. So the urgency of the need is really important. Any questions about that? So getting back to this, I think that if you're in a new business, if you're new to a community, lots of people don't know that they need you. And I think that just doing some marketing and expecting people to come in the door and buy your products or employ you for your services is somewhat an unrealistic expectation, because if people don't know what you do, if they don't know that they need you, if there's no urgency to get them to come in your door or give you a phone call, the marketing that you do needs to be an education or helping people understand what their needs are, helping build that sense of urgency. And it's, again, you can't ask people to marry you on the first date. You can't just say, hi, here I am, and this is what I do. You should buy from me today. It's not, people aren't there yet. And especially with high involvement purchases or expensive products or services, you need to get to know them. You need to get to help them understand what you do and how you can benefit them with your products or services. Any questions on that?
No, I just find it quite interesting just listening to what you're saying, and then the business that Aaron has and the Indigenous clients that I deal with. And, so they'll tell me, and they do tell me, and they are somewhat successful at what they're doing. So they are selling online. But, I mean, maybe partnering or working with Aaron's company gives them a bigger opportunity online because they're not doing all the work themselves. They've got somebody else out there that is already set up. And so, so I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes just by even having this conversation, you can identify that, okay, just a second, yeah, I'm selling online, but I could diversify, I could expand, and I could go with Aaron's company and work through him for payments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and then it just keeps going from there. So yeah, that's it. It's good.
Yeah, you, especially in this day and age, you really want to make it easy for people to buy from you. And we forget that can be a barrier. The example of the pizza order, if you're not online, I can't see your menu, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go to the next supplier on the Google list and find someone who can deliver and who can provide me with a menu so that I can pick out which pieces I want or which products I want. We have to make it easy for people, and for lots of businesses there has to be an online presence. Even if it's just for that education piece, how do they get to know what you do? That maybe that's as much as we need. Maybe we don't have to have online purchasing, but I know for me, when my kid was wanting some extra coaching support for hockey tryouts coming up, and the guy who was running the hockey camp, he wanted, well, you know, you can send me an e-transfer, but I really don't like them, and can you write me a check? And I haven't had a check in at least 18 months. So no, I don't have a check. You need to make it easy for me to do this. And then he said, well, bring me cash at the door. Well, I haven't had cash in 6 months either. So yeah, you have to make this easier for me. It's just the sign of the times. But I think that it's important for us to consider how we make it easy for people to buy from us. So yeah, businesses like Aaron's, absolutely. This is the time that businesses can use your product. All right. I wanted to get into another question that I get all the time. People talk about brands as marketing, and lots of people think of brand as my logo. And I like to differentiate two different types of marketing that you can do. And I'm going to just show you what they are and describe them and talk about them in the context of your business as well. I like to look at two different kinds of marketing. One is brand development. We'll talk a little bit more about that one. One is demand creation, and demand creation is really those buy now kind of ads. Like the example I gave of the snow shovel. You know, just putting a snow shovel out on a cold day in front of a store, that would be enough for them to sell out, right? If it's cold and people can feel the snow in the air, they're going to buy a shovel or make sure they have one at home. These are really good if you're this kind of marketing. This buy now messaging is great if you're looking for cash flow in your business. If you're cash strapped, or maybe it's not your busy season, finding out how you can do this marketing to get people to come in. A really good example of this was this spring. I always go to a little greenhouse out in the country. My mother-in-law used to work there, and they're lovely people and they have great products. But of course, COVID hits right in their busy season. And so the owner took to Facebook, and every Sunday she would have a Facebook Live, and she had the hanging baskets, and she'd go through and describe all of these. So this one is good for shade, and it'll fill out with pink or purple or red blossoms. And we have these lovely trailing things that come down. And if you want this one, respond to this video with 14A. That's the number for this basket. And this basket is good for sunny locations because these plants won't dry out, or they're drought hardy. And this is 14C. And she was explaining, actually, I got more from those video Facebook Live sessions, because whenever I go in there, there's so many people that it was always busy and I couldn't get that one-on-one counseling on which plants to put where. So it was really helpful for everyone who was dying to get into a greenhouse and really wanted to get their plants in the garden, but couldn't go to a store. And so she made it really easy for us to buy by just saying, you know, they numbered all the plants and they said, we have lots of peppers and we have lots of ferns, or whatever it was they had. But it was that that invitation to buy. So that was really, to me, a really good example of COVID marketing in that demand creation. The brand development is more that reputation advertising, and you see lots of it from big companies, and especially right when we had the lockdown in April, May, my family was watching lots of reruns on sports channels. And so that's the only advertising I saw, but it was lots of ads from the Cokes and the Hostess and the Frito-Lays and the Doritos and the big companies that were saying, we're with you in COVID, and we are doing this for our employees, and we're doing this for our customers. And that reputation kind of messaging, that's more along the development of a brand. And I also look at these as demand creation is short-term gain for a business. Brand development is long-term gain. And sometimes we can do both at the same time, because just like the videos that I was telling you about from that greenhouse, not only were they saying this is for sale and this is for sale and this is for sale, they were also saying things like giving me tips and hints and helping me know what to buy. And if you go into the Home Depot, there's some 18-year-old that's the same as my kid. They don't know what plant goes where. They just got trained on how to do the till. And that's about the help you're getting, is the purple ones are there, and somebody told me that's a perennial, but I don't know what a perennial is. So that greenhouse really differentiated themselves for me by teaching me what I needed to know and giving me information, stopping me from buying the shade plant when I really needed the sun plant. And that helps build their reputation of being helpful and courteous and informative. So they did kind of double duty with that. But for businesses that rely on word of mouth advertising or marketing, this is when you remind existing customers how great it is to work with you. So that when somebody asks them, hey, who made your app for you? Or where did your kid go to training? Then you can say, oh, it was this business or that business, or your customer will say that because they just heard from you. And you reminded them how great your customer service was, or you reminded them that you're always there to help if they need you. Maybe they don't need you, but at least they think, wow, somebody remembered me. I don't know if you've ever got a card, a handwritten thank you note from somewhere you bought something, but it can really make a difference, because lots of times I just feel like a number. And if somebody says, you know what, thanks for doing that, I really appreciated that. Or maybe it's even you see an article in your news feed and you think, wow, my customer just mentioned that, and it has nothing to do with my business, but I remember having that conversation with them, and maybe I send an article to them, or somebody that I know is looking for a job and they'd be perfect for that position my customer is looking to fill, and you send somebody their way. Like things like that can really help solidify that relationship with a customer. And that builds loyalty over time. Questions about that? When I talk about branding, like I said, lots of people think of it just as a logo. And I think it's more than that. It's about how you do business. When I look at brands, I look at making a promise to someone, and you deliver on that promise and you repeat that over and over again. Just like McDonald's, love them or hate them, you know what you're getting every time because they're very consistent. And that repetition, that ability to offer the same product and service over and over again builds a reputation for them over time. And small businesses can do the same as a Starbucks or a McDonald's or a Nike. You just have to be consistent about it. When I look at a brand, like I said, it's not just a logo. What do you communicate to people? What will they get from your product or service? And then does what you promise actually get delivered to them? If you've ever been excited about going to a new restaurant, you'll know what I mean. Sometimes the hype around the restaurant builds up, and then opening day comes, I guess, hopefully soon and pre-COVID times. And then we go to the restaurant, and if it completely lives up to whatever we expected, that builds the value of the brand. If it does not at all live up to the expectation that we had or the promise that we were given, that's when a brand erodes. And I think, again, like every small business can build this reputation. The brand logo or the colors, those are kind of just what we associate with it. The same way that you associate one person always, my husband loves to wear plaid, and so that's his brand, is his plaid. It's just a look. It's not as important as what do you promise to your customers and what do you actually deliver. And to me, that's the bigger analysis rather than should the logo be blue or red. Those are more important to me. Any questions about brands?
I just want to say, Jill, all this is really resonating from me. I feel like I've lived some of this. I don't know about anybody else, but I just want to give you some feedback that I hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great. I appreciate that, Erin. I think as businesses grow, and if you've been in business for a long time, you probably need more brand marketing than demand creation. That demand creation is when you're in a new business, you're on the left-hand side of this slide. You really need sales. You've got to get money coming into the business, and that's really important in the initial stages. As you progress and start having customers and there's opportunities for repeat purchases, that's where building your brand is really important. And it's more of an investment at that time. The other thing is, I think...
Just excuse me for a second, Jill.
Sure.
Jenny, I think we're hearing the background in your office.
Just wanted to mention that if you start having employees, that's also an important thing to consider with your brand. Again, doesn't have anything to do with the logo, but if you promise prompt service and you hire an employee who is never on time, that's when your brand could be eroded or your reputation becomes tarnished because you haven't either hired or trained people to be able to deliver on your brand promise. And as your business grows, this is going to become more and more important to you. Maybe it's not even an employee, but maybe if you're promising fast delivery and you don't charge them for courier service, maybe that's something to rethink because it's maybe not going to be as fast as what you need. Okay. Lots of things here. I wanted to get into a little bit of talk. When I talked about this first, we were talking about, I know you've had lots of online marketing kind of training lately. I am a big fan of digital and social marketing. I'm also not a fan of digital and social marketing. I think that it's very specific to the business and the customers that you have. So depending on what product or service you have and who your customers are, your ability to be on social media especially, it's dependent on those factors. And I think it has to be a conscious choice, and you have to be prepared to invest in it. So it's sort of like hiring a 10-year-old for a position in a job. They might have some basic skills, but you've got to teach them a lot about customer service or your products and services, they're not equipped to be able to just get into the job and be able to do what you need them to do. So I put up here a bunch of things. Lots of people, if you go online, you'll see that every business is on social media and everyone has to be there. And I don't think that every business has to be there. Like I said, I think it really depends, and being conscious in your choice to be online, I think is more important than actually getting started. But I wanted to mention a few things that are really important to me when I work with clients and we look at a digital or social strategy. Just to give you some food for thought as you're looking at online. There's a few things that social can do for you. It can help get you sales, absolutely. But for most businesses, social media is not the way to a fast sale. So that has to be taken into account. Sometimes you can get to know your customers better. You can get to know your competitors better. I know lots of businesses use things like Facebook and YouTube to help educate their customers. Once they've got a customer and they need maybe some information on how to use the product or service that you offer, those can be really helpful. Maybe you're using it to find employees. There's lots of things that you can use social media for. But I want you to think about it being one tool in the toolbox. It's not your whole marketing strategy. It's one tool in the toolbox. For those of you who are in your business by yourself, I often say that you're your best marketer, first of all. So before you start making big investments, before you write that check for somebody to do your social media or your website for you for $10, $12, $20,000, consider that it has to be part of something else. You can't just write that check and get that thing off your plate. Your marketing has to have more elements to it than just one. And you're usually part of that, which is stressful sometimes, but I think there's lots of value in considering yourself as your best salesperson. Another thing, like I said at the beginning of this, I always hear, I didn't get what I wanted. I spent $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on marketing, social media, on a consulting company, and I didn't get what I wanted. And sometimes I find it hard to get into those situations because I know that there's challenges on both sides. I can't just say, oh, well, that supplier, they're terrible and they didn't know what they were doing. Because lots of times customers, like businesses like yours, you don't know what to ask for. Somebody comes in, they say, we'll do all your social media marketing, and you think, hallelujah, I hate doing that. I don't know anything about it. So let me write you that check and you go do that for me. I can check this off my list and now I can go back to my production or my trademarking or whatever I'm doing over here. The challenge is that if you don't go into those relationships, knowing what they're doing, at least having a cursory understanding of what they're doing, and also having measurements so that you can say, okay, by this time you said you were going to do this. You said you were going to have me on Airbnb and Facebook by the end of December, and that's not happening yet. If you don't have those measurements, you can't hold that supplier to account. So if I leave you with anything today, it's if you're employing someone else to help you with your marketing, you have to have a basic knowledge of what to ask them for. And if you need some help, just like I said, email me and we can talk it through and I can help you with that. But also, how do you measure success? What are the milestones to getting to where you want to be? And if you don't understand those and don't hold that supplier to account, you're going to be the next person to say to me, I didn't get what I wanted. So I encourage you to understand it enough to know what you need done. Like with your accountant, if you hire somebody to do your taxes and Revenue Canada comes back and says, hey, you didn't pay your taxes, there's a deadline there. There's something that says they didn't get their job done. But what is it for social media, or what is it for the website, or what is it for search engine optimization? Just be educated, I guess. I really encourage people, you know, you don't have to wait for yourself to get a full marketing plan or a business plan. Start where you are, use what you have and your knowledge that the things you already know, and do what you can. You don't have to have a perfect plan all together and have everything running with a CEO of marketing and a marketing assistant. You don't have to have all that stuff. You can start where you are. How are we doing for time? Oh my goodness, we're almost done. I'll just skip to some common things that I find with social media that are problems for businesses. Account access. If you allow somebody to set up an account for you, you have to know the password and the username. I've gone into lots of businesses where people, the person that was setting it up for them was my friend's kid's son's cousin, and he set up my Twitter account and he's gone, and I don't know how to access my Twitter account. Basically, that's gone and you have to start fresh. So if somebody's setting it up for you, please get the password and the account access, have your email on the account as the owner, and you can work that out with a supplier. Know what you have to put on social media. Do you have pictures? Do you have customer testimonials? Do you have information that you want to share? Do you have videos that will help your customers use your product or service? Whatever you have already is great, and get it all together. Replace or enhance offline media. Again, this is just one tool in the toolbox. It's not the tool. I did say that you're getting a freebie here from me. Jessica will have sent this out. This is part of a worksheet that I put together for a client, and there's a worksheet for you to work through as well. Creating a voice for social media so that you can understand how you want to portray yourself. If you would go to a meeting with a potential customer dressed in company clothing with a clean face and clean shoes, then you want all your employees to do the same. With social media, you want your social feed to be that employee who's reflecting what you want to say and appear to customers as. So there's a worksheet that I sent out, so Jessica will send that out to you, but it's pretty self-explanatory and helping you understand what you want your business to look like and what you don't want your business to look like. This was an example from a fishing camp that I worked with, and how we looked at different photos to decide what we liked and what we didn't like, so that when somebody was helping us with social media, they'd have some guidelines for that. Oh, I talked a lot. Anybody have any questions?
You did talk a lot. It was very good.
I agree. Very good. Does anyone have any questions? I've been watching the chat. There's nothing there, but if anybody wants to unmute and ask, go right, feel free to.
Maria Dixon, can you see some advantages or some good information for you?
Yes, I do. And I do have a quick question relating to voice. Often, you know, I'm going to be in women's clothing and accessories, and, you know, there may be opportunity for education around the garments and stuff like that. But because of that perspective, I've sometimes, when I have looked at voice, I think a voice can change sometimes. And is that okay? Because sometimes if you appear like too stiff, then people think you're phony. So you don't want to be unprofessional, but you do want to show sometimes that humorous side as well. And do you have any ideas on, you know, maybe how often you should do that, or what your thoughts are relating to that?
Wonderful question. What I often do is think about my social feed like a person, somebody who would be talking to my customers. And I find it really helpful to think about someone that you know and sort of think about, well, what, especially with humor's a tough one. But what kind of humor do you want to send out there? Is it I'm just gonna use an example for your business, but if you're trying to lift women up and give them confidence, maybe the humor is fairly light. It's not self-deprecating because you're trying to boost confidence and stay positive. So it's not like, oh well, I'm gonna squeeze into this bathing suit. You know, it's a different kind of funny than that, right? So it's kind of, I find it good to think of someone you know and whose humor you appreciate and maybe a good role model for your voice. And that would give you some idea of if you think about things that they say or how they're funny. I think that can really help. In the example that I gave, this is just it was a horrible example. Like, it's a great example, but it's a horrible picture. The one with all the beer cans and this guy is passed out, and it's a fishing, it was a meme for fishing. And it was absolutely not the type of picture that my client wanted on their feeds, because it's not safe. It's not, they wanted to promote family values. It just wasn't the image that they wanted to portray. And going through the exercise and looking for things that they didn't like was helpful in identifying things that they did like. And so that can be some of it too. This was another one, like some of the memes on the right, the fishing like a boss. It's supposed to be funny, and for some people it is, but for the people that I was working with, they're very concerned about the environment and about treating animals respectfully. They're, you know, they catch fish and they release them. They don't fish lakes that are overfished. They're very respectful of the natural environment, and they did not want something like that on their news feed. So it was, again, a way of saying, we don't like this, but we really like this. And sometimes that's easier to pick out than to say, you know, this is how I want my voice to be portrayed. Does that help you, Maria?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you very much for your perspective.
Okay. You'll
Wayne,
see some, oh.
How about from you?
Did you say, this is Dwayne? Did you mention my name?
Yeah, I did. I'm just wondering, can you have you been able to pull some stuff from Jill's information that would help you move your business to the next steps?
I have been steadily learning, and because this business is actually very new to me, so I have to cautiously move forward before I bring my product out because I'm going on online with my product, and I've got a huge target market on this product. So some of the stuff that you mentioned to me would be very useful, as I have so many ideas, but this is my first one that I'm launching. So
I think, Dwayne, because you're launching it, it's something brand new. I think it might be interesting to teach people about how you use the product, like
yes.
Who can play it. Is it something for lots of generations to play together, or is it something for kids? Is it something for families?
Yes. Well, here, I'll just go quickly. It's all of the above: native language learning. It's a reconciliation tool, family fun. It improves your math. You can raise funds, and it's adaptable.
Okay, very interesting.
Ages 7 to 99. So it's yeah. I've got a lot. I'm quite prepared. I'm almost there, but I just needed some marketing knowledge. That's something that I needed to be part of my research. So
yeah.
thank you for some of the stuff.
Well, let us know when you start selling them so we can all buy one and try it.
Yeah, I already have my trademark. I already have the website, the web. Like I'm just about ready to go.
Good.
And this
Good
is
for you.
The art is wonderful, and it'll be quite quite spectacular, I think.
Good.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Rosemina, if you can hear us, did you want to tell us what your business is, and did you get something out of this session with Jill? Okay, Sandy Weber. You have to unmute your
Hi.
mics.
Sorry.
Okay, who've I got here?
Sandy.
Okay, good. So did you get some stuff out of this, some information out of Jill's session that can help you start moving your business forward?
Yes, I did. I got quite a bit. Basically, the part that you're your best marketer, because that's what we all do. We pass it on to somebody else, right?
Yeah, not a good idea.
Yeah, well, I've been letting my daughter do it, and we argue about the website, and we argue about this, and she has her own plans, and I have my own plans, and ultimately it's my business, so I'm winning arguments in some degree, but I need to win more.
Well, and you know what, when you talk about your business, your passion comes through. And so she can say the words, but when the words come from you and you're the person with the understanding and you've seen the effects of what your services can do for people with special needs, like that passion and those stories that you tell are really, really impactful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we have to keep moving on. Mary, I see you're still here. We don't know what your business is, but if you'd like to tell us, and if there's something that you got from Jill's session, that'd be great to know.
Mary just said that she doesn't have a mic, but Jill was provided some tips and information in the session.
Perfect.
And then
Did
same
you-
with Rosemina.
Rosemina?
She's actually at work and isn't able to talk right now. She said she's a marketing and outreach coordinator with a community clinic. So there's that little bit of information that I'm busy reading away here.
That's perfect. Yeah. And Aaron, how about you with pre-order and pay?
I feel like I've lived a lot of the presentation. The purchase cycle, it was a really, when you first showed it, it was a manifestation of just like, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I've been through this. I've actually experienced this yesterday. Yeah. And I was here with a customer. So it's really kind of maybe formulated or solidified my understanding of some of what I'm experiencing, and maybe some of what my clients are experiencing, especially when you talked about how hard change is and making those leaps. It's really been honestly a multi-year task to get here. So yeah, and that's, I think, rolls into when you talked about demand versus brand and where that was, because I've tried to launch this business before in 2016 and fell flat on my face, which was not fun, but here we are. So
and it's very different selling to businesses rather than consumers. So if you want to talk more about that, I'd be happy to, because I really think that there's a lot of things we can do differently when we're talking to businesses.
All right, there's your invitation, Dwayne. I'd take her up on it. I've known this lady for years. Santiago, did you want to comment on anything? Santiago?
Let's see anything.
Okay.
Okay. With that, I'm going to